The astonishing news of Ana Obregon's controversial decision to embrace motherhood at the age of 68, 3 years after the loss of her only son, came as a major shock to all the gossip media in Spain and abroad, and left her own relatives lost for words. But beyond the endless gossip and speculations, Ana's motherhood has brought on multiple conundrums of a political, legal and ethical nature. As soon as the first photos were published of Ana Obregon being wheeled out of a clinic in Miami with a baby in her arms on the 20th of March 2023, the media speculated about a surrogate pregnancy. The news was met by widespread criticism from political figures in government and opposition, since Spanish law expressly forbids surrogacy, which is seen as a form of female exploitation. Yet some political parties have seen this as an opportunity to debate and regulate this fertility route. But the loudest attacks came from other celebrities, including many of her friends, and from the public at large, who found Ana's actions utterly unethical. For many, Ana was bringing to the world a child conceived mainly as a replacement for the first child she still grieved. While others were bothered by the fact that she had the financial means to bring joy to her life-thought baby, without proper consideration of the possible consequences of raising a child as an aged single parent. Ana was quick to respond to all those objections from her secret luxury location in Miami, and the reality of the situation became even more bizarre. Because, as many had suspected right from the start, the baby had been conceived with the reproductive material of her deceased son Aless. This came as a major blow to her son's father, Count Alessandro Lequio, who admitted having been kept in the dark. It has been reported that privately Count Lequio is angry at Ana's decision and at the way she is handling the situation, but publicly he insists he is still grieving his late son, and that he prefers to honor his memory without any comments. Yet the Count's uneasy silence is seen by some as a major exercise of restraint. There is the real possibility that Alessandro Lequio will demand a paternity test to establish whether the baby is actually his biological granddaughter, for the issue could have personal and legal implications for him and his own family. Moreover, Lequio, who is an Italian aristocrat directly related to the Spanish royal family, would not tolerate the misuse of his noble surname. Ana may have foreseen this, and as a matter of fact, on the American birth certificate the baby is named Ana Lequio Obregon, where Lequio seems to be transformed into a sort of middle name. Ana later clarified that the baby's name is Anela, then she said it was Ana Sandra, but lately she just calls her Anita. To make matters worse, Ana will have to overcome a series of legal hurdles in Spain. The Spanish registry will first examine Ana's surrogacy contract in minute detail, in search for any possible clauses that might be deemed unlawful or abusive, which would render the whole procedure null and void in Spain. At the following phase, the state will assess the American adoption papers, and this constitutes another major stumbling block, given that Spanish law rejects adoptions when the parent is more than 45 years older than the child. So there is the real possibility that Ana will not be able to gain legal recognition as the mother of the baby. In that case, Ana Obregon could only apply to obtain the status of legal tutor, which is granted after careful assessment of the applicant's profile, with the minor's best interest in mind. However, there is the possibility that the state attorney will object to the whole proceeding, for Spanish legislation does not allow a biological relative to become an adoptive parent. So Ana's proud claims of actually being the grandmother of the baby could actually be the very factor that could prevent her from becoming the legal mother. At that point, Ana would have to prove that her son Aless is the real male donor, and so far no legal documents exist that might prove this. It also remains to be proven that it was really her son's deathbed wish that Ana should bring his child to the world after his death. So far we only have Ana's word for it, and she is known for embellishing parts of her life to her own advantage. But even if it could be proved that Aless gave his express consent for the use of his reproductive cells to bring a child to life, to be raised by his own mother, even in that case, the scenario would be considered unlawful in Spain, because post-mortem fertility treatment is only allowed between an existing couple and only within 12 months from the death of the donor. And now we need to introduce Carolina, Aless's girlfriend, during the last 2 years of his life. It was rumored that after his passing, Ana Obregon had asked her to bear Aless's child, but it seems Carolina had already come to terms with his sad departure, and so she declined. As it happens, Carolina recently announced she will be getting married this summer, news which apparently upset Ana Obregon. But Carolina refuses to comment, and is subtly claiming her right to move on in life. Yet there is one other person who has not entered the scene yet, and that is Raquel, Aless's former girlfriend. She was a bright medical graduate when they started going out. They lived an intense romance, which ended when she started work at a prestigious public hospital in Madrid while he was in New York undergoing cancer treatment. At a certain point in their relationship, the two went together to a fertility clinic in Valencia, where Aless had his reproductive tissue extracted and preserved. It is rumored that at the time the pair had firm intentions to conceive a child together. Yet others regard the episode as a preventive measure that is often suggested to young cancer patients, which Raquel, being an oncologist herself, would have encouraged Aless to carry out. Only Raquel knows what Aless had on his mind when he stored his reproductive material in the clinic. Did he dream of a future family together with her? And if so, is it legitimate, or ethical, or understandable for his mother to later make use of that material with an anonymous female donor? Did Aless really wish for his mother to use that material as she best saw fit? If so, did he leave it in writing, and did he tell his own father about it before passing away? The whole affair raises many ethical considerations. Indeed, one could say that Ana Obregon has gone a little too far in her motherhood adventure, all things considered. But nothing seems to mar her days of bliss looking after the baby. Far from worrying, Ana writes letters to her son in heaven, while she dreams about bringing to the world 1 or 2 siblings for Anita.